How is it going, everybody? The PlayStation Store is currently running its fall savings sale as well as a games under $15 sale. You guys know the deal with the store sales these days. I believe there's some crossover between the two, but we'll be looking at stuff under the price of $10. We got 10 games here. I'm sure there's a lot more. We'll probably do another video, but you can be looking out for that in the next week or two. So it'll be running for a little bit. Let's get right into it, and let's start things off with Alan Wake Remastered, 67% off for $9.89. Now, this was a PS Plus game recently, so a lot of you guys probably have the game through that, but I feel like it's pretty relevant to mention Alan Wake Remastered, given that we're coming up on the release of Alan Wake 2, and honestly, you pick up Alan Wake Remastered right now, yes, it comes with the DLC, but you can complete the game fairly quickly. That was one of the gripes of Alan Wake back in 2010, that it was a $60 game, and it was a fairly short game, you know, 7 to 8 hours long. But now you're paying sub $10, you're getting the DLC, and I don't think people are as stringent about game length these days, and Alan Wake's a great game. The atmosphere is great. Gameplay definitely shows its age, you know, almost 15 years later, but, you know, almost all that time, we're finally getting a sequel, so that's great. Definitely check this out. If you played it back in the 360 days or on PC and you want to revisit it, this would be a great way to do so as well, so definitely give that a look at that price. Next up, we have God of War III Remastered, 50% off for $9.99. This is on Plus Premium. Now, I am kind of in the minority in the sense that I wasn't crazy about the God of War games before God of War 2018. Like, I thought they were fine action games, but I know that, again, I'm in the minority on that, so, like, all you guys with your pitchforks out, you can relax. I still thought God of War 3 was a pretty good game and the culmination of that arc of God of War. Kind of unfortunate we don't have the Origins collection on PlayStation 4, so you kind of just have to stick with God of War 3 or dig up, you know, your other platforms to play the other titles, but God of War 3 is great. Back in the day, these God of War games were super short as well, which, you know, 2018 and Ragnarok are certainly much lengthier than that, but still, for sub $10, a good buy there. Next up, we have Infamous Second Son, 50% off for $9.99. I've always talked up this game. This, in my opinion, was one of the first true PlayStation 4 system sellers, and initially, you know, I thought it was going to be a launch game, then they got it out spring of 2014, and honestly, I feel like the rush to get this game out to sell PlayStation 4s was ultimately the game's undoing. Like, this is a game that could have used a little bit more time in the oven, but I still thought it was a great game. I think Delsin's a good character. He's not Cole, but he's a good character. Visuals are still great. Like, I popped up this game probably a couple months ago, and I was like, damn, this game still looks really good, runs great on PS5, all of the different superpowers are great, story is fairly decent, not insanely gripping, but I thought it was fine, and yeah, if you've never played any of the Infamous games, you don't have to play one or two to play Second Son, so definitely give that a look. That's a great price, and that's on Plus Extra if you do have that. Next up, also on Plus Extra, Control Ultimate Edition, 75% off for $9.99. Now, this is a part of that Remedy connected universe, so not a bad time to play this either. I don't know if you guys want to jump into Alan Wake, Control, you're playing Spider-Man 2. That might be a little bit too much on the plate right now, especially if you picked up Assassin's Creed and Lords of the Fallen, but, you know, Control is a game I would certainly recommend, and maybe this is a hot take. I think this is Remedy's best game. I think from a narrative standpoint, it's still incredibly compelling, and I think the gameplay is Remedy at their strongest. You know, some of the narrative is a little bit confusing to follow, but that's just, you know, Remedy titles. You have the DLC here as well. This is the PS4 and PS5 version, so that's quite good. Sub $10 again, good price on that. Next up, Kingdom Come Deliverance. The base game is 80% off for $6. Now, I would recommend that, you know, once the Royal Edition goes on sale, probably best bet to get that, given you get all the DLC with that, but KCD is still a solid throwback RPG. A little bit more on the realistic side. If you're not a fan of the historical aspect of the game, I probably wouldn't recommend it, but visually, it's great. Again, gameplay is a bit different than your typical open-world RPG that comes out on console these days. I would say this is more akin to a PC RPG, but pretty good on consoles as well and runs decently well. Next up, we have Tales of Zestria, 90% off for $5.99. Now, this is without a doubt the weakest game in the entire Tales of franchise. If you're getting into Tales of, you go Vesperia, Berseria, or Arise. You do not get Zestria, but most of you guys have probably played the aforementioned Tales of game, and Zestria, I would imagine, is the game you probably heard negative things about. It's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. The Tales of games are fairly consistent, and Zestria is still a decent game. It's just, there's some narrative decisions that are kind of questionable in this game, and the cast is one of the weakest, probably the weakest across the entire Tales of game. Not terrible, but when you compare it to a Vesperia, like, it's a far cry from that, in my opinion. But $6, like, it's still a fairly decent JRPG, and I would say it's a good buy for this price point. I mean, I dropped 60 on it, and I was kind of slighted by that, but for 10% of that price, I think it's fine. Next up, we have Frostpunk Complete Collection. This, if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, is $6.74. This is an insane deal. Even if this is a game that may be to your typical console guy, it's not going to be a game up your alley. It is more centric to PC, these survival style games, but the fact is you get the base game and the DLC with this bundle for $6.74. This is ridiculous, and it's an 11-bit Studios game. 11-bit Studios, if you guys don't know, they also did This War of Mine, which this War of Mine and Frostpunk, I feel like they're just trying to make games that make people feel emotionally like pretty down bad. But Frostpunk is a game that is revolved around making various decisions, cultivating your society, and it's a pretty well done game. It's a grim game, but it's pretty well done. Frostpunk 2 is in development, so you know, I'm sure that'll be quite good, but that's probably still a ways away. Next up, Vampyr is 80% off for $7.99. Now, this is a game that I remember when it came out, it was, it got a little bit of a mixed reception, and I'm a Don't Nod fan. I think Don't Nod makes some great games, and Vampyr was a little bit more of a different game than they typically did. At that point, you know, Life is Strange was their big title, but I thought Vampyr was really good from a voice acting standpoint. I thought the atmosphere was great. I thought the narrative was strong until, you know, some things happened. The gameplay definitely was very, very basic and not very enjoyable, but you can set the game. I believe they did an update to add like an easier difficulty mode. You can play it that way and just enjoy the ambiance and the atmosphere. I think for $7.99, it's a good pickup, and I would give it a shout. It's not a game that's like revered by any stretch of the imagination, but I still think it's worth a playthrough. I enjoyed my time with it, surprisingly. I probably enjoyed that game a lot more than others. Next up, we have Valkyria Chronicles 4, 80% off for $5.99. I love the Valkyria Chronicles games. I think these games are criminally underrated. I don't know if we're gonna ever get a consistent stream of these titles. Valkyria Chronicles 1 came out in 2008. Valkyria Chronicles 2 was a PSP only game that a lot of people don't even know exists. Valkyria Chronicles 3 never even came out stateside and it was a PSP only game in Japan, and truth be told, VC3 is probably the best game in the series from a story standpoint, and then we got Valkyria Chronicles 4 years later in, I think, 2018. But the game's great. You can jump into Valkyria Chronicles 4 without playing the other games. I mean, you should play Valkyria Chronicles 1. It's really good as well. But fundamentally, these games remain pretty similar throughout, but it works, and the story's told really well through a storybook. I just think it's a really, really solid game, really good story, and pretty lengthy as well. Even though you don't have like any exploration or anything like that, you've got a lot of content here in terms of all the battles and whatnot, and the cutscenes, so a lot to get into there. Lastly, I do want to give a shout out to Nioh Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom. This is 84% off for $9.59. This is one of those JRPGs that I recommend to people if you're not a big fan of the genre. Really, you probably should go like Final Fantasy 16 these days. That's probably the ultimate game to get you into JRPGs, just because the style of game that is. But Nioh Kuni 2 is a fairly good one if you want to get into the lesser-known JRPGs. It's a pretty well-made game. I don't think it's as strong as the first game, but the fact is the visual style is still great, soundtrack's really good, and the aesthetics, presentation, those elements are really strong, and the gameplay is still pretty good. So sub $10 on this, I think, is pretty good. Again, you can play this without playing Nioh Kuni 1, so don't worry too much about that. But that'll be doing it for me. Again, a lot of great deals right now across the fall savings and games under $15 sale. Check them out for yourself. As always, links in the description box below. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.